moment? Well, this morning we have Dr. Patrick Amu-Mensah. He's a medical director at the Kanishi Polyclinic, and he'll be here to answer some questions on painkillers this morning. As well as that, throughout the segment, we'll also find out what you, the public, had to say about painkillers as well. Good morning, Doc. How are you doing?
I'm good.
Good. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
First off, let's just start with define for me what painkillers are, please.
Okay. Painkillers or analgesia is derived from, it's a Greek word actually, meaning that without pain. So anything that reduces pain goes into that class of analgesia.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, when is it necessary for one to take a painkiller without prescription? And when is it necessary for one to take a painkiller with prescription?
Okay. Before I answer the question, I would just like our viewers to know the type of painkillers that we have.
Let's go.
The first class, we have the first type, we have the paracetamol group.
Mm-hmm.
Then we have the non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs. Example is your diclofenac, your aceclofenac, your indomethacin, your piroxicam, your celecoxib, etc., etc.
Mm-hmm.
Then we have the last group, which is the opioid analgesics, where we have the morphine, you have your pethidine, you have your tramadol, etc.
Okay.
So these are the main classes, even though there are also other classes like the psychotropic drugs, even like cannabis, which are also have some analgesic properties, okay, and also some tricyclic antidepressants. So, to come to your question as to when to take analgesia for a condition, because each one has its own mode of action, it's always better to go for a prescription.
Okay.
Before you're saying that, okay, I want an paracetamol, I want an NSAID, I want an opioid analgesic.
Okay.
Unfortunately, in our part of the world, we just go and say to the pharmacy, and I want this type of drug, you know.
We tend to get it.
Exactly.
Okay. Now, let's just try and clarify something. Now, we mentioned the first category of painkillers being the paracetamols, aspirin. Does ibuprofen fall within that?
Yes, yeah? Ibuprofen is non-steroidal,
yeah,
so that is in the second class.
Okay. So with these type of painkillers, they're readily available in pharmacies?
Yes, they are readily available.
Are these the kind of painkillers that one can take at home without a prescription?
Yes, like I said, you know, we have over-the-counter drugs like, yeah, paracetamol. Okay, and to talk about paracetamol, it's one of the safest analgesics around.
Okay.
Fewer side effects in low dose concentrations, even though with this abuse you can have liver and kidney problems.
Okay.
And it's safe, like I said, even in pregnancy, as compared to the NSAIDs, which are not so suitable for pregnant women, unless, of course, you really need it. You try to balance the side effects with the benefits that the person would get.
Okay.
Because of some of these side effects and contraindications and drug interactions, it's always better, like I said, to have a prescription for some of these drugs.
Okay.
If you were to have a normal headache, paracetamol is perfect for headache or tension headaches and things like that. It's just that in our part of, I remember there was a patient once who had pain, and we gave paracetamol. Was like, paracetamol, because people tend to think that, oh, what's a paracetamol? It's so common, but it's so good. It works.
Okay.
It works. So, depending on the condition which you have, and pain can be of different origins.
Yeah.
And it can be of musculoskeletal. It can be of a visceral. Visceral means more of soft tissues, internal organs, kind of thing. So then you know, then your choice of your analgesic is very important in this case.
All right. Is it true that keeping oneself hydrated can also be a form of painkiller?
Yes, actually. Some studies were done some years ago. University of Maastricht in the Netherlands, they came out with the fact that yes, water could be a form of a natural painkiller.
Okay.
You know, because 2/3 of the human being is even made up of water.
Yeah.
So it helps to some extent, but quite apart from that, let me just chip in very quickly with this thing called the natural painkillers that the body produces. They're called endorphins, especially when you exercise. The body tries to give you this kind of endorphins, which is a kind of a natural painkiller all by itself to try to combat it. Yeah, so these are some of the natural remedies available.
All right, let's talk about administering these painkillers. Obviously, there are different forms of painkillers. You can get your tablets, you can have your injections, there are syrups, and so forth. Now, would the form of administration of these painkillers depend on the severity of the pain itself? Because, I mean, the reason I ask so is because sometimes you go to a doctor, they would say, chew the paracetamol instead of swallowing it.
Okay.
I can only gather that's to make it work faster.
Yes, because it's been broken up into little pieces.
Okay.
And so once you swallow it whole, it now has to digest, go through the gastric juices, go through before it gets absorbed. So when he says chew it, then it's already broken, and then it works faster. Okay. Yes.
So is it safe to say then if you were to be injected with a painkiller, that's also an even faster painkiller?
Well, this is a very good question. The route of administration depends on, you see the patient, maybe the patient is vomiting. He's having nausea, vomiting, so then he cannot really take in oral medication.
Right, makes sense.
And so you want to give intramuscularly. So with that route, then yes, and sometimes it works faster. Actually, it works faster when it's given through, it's called the parenteral route, as compared to when it takes through the mouth. It has to go to the gastric juices. It has to go through something called first pass metabolism, etc., absorption before it works. So it depends on the patient in front of you, and each one has its own. It goes with its own case. Yeah.
Okay. Now, also, when doctors prescribe medication, we're told to take 2-3 times a day or something along those lines. There have been instances where people have taken double doses within a shorter period of time in order to get faster results. Is that safe at all?
It's not safe. The NSAIDs, like I said earlier, paracetamol is a very safe analgesic. So you normally give an adult, let's say 2-3 times a day. But if you were to abuse paracetamol, then you are at risk of getting liver and kidney problems.
Okay.
And also with these NSAIDs, they also have their own side effects, especially gastric irritation. And you don't want to go more than what the doctor has asked you to take. And in talking about NSAIDs, some people, sometimes they combine. You know, the NSAIDs, maybe 2 NSAIDs, 3 NSAIDs, and you know, unless it's very necessary, you don't want to be combining 2 NSAIDs.
Right.
Unless, of course, the doctor has really found the need for it.
Okay.
What sometimes in some formulations, what they do is that, let's say, paracetamol and let's say codeine, which is in the paracetamol and an opioid analgesic.
Yeah.
Yes, and then but. Sometimes, if you, let's say, aspirin and you are combining it with diclofenac, you are combining it with other NSAIDs, sometimes because of drug interactions, sometimes even the effect of the aspirin that maybe you are using for your stroke patient, you are taking aspirin and then you take other NSAIDs, it can even reduce the effects of the drug. So it's always better to, that's why when you come to the hospital, we take a drug history, we know the drug that you are taking, and we look at the drug interactions, we look at contraindications. Do you have to take this drug? You don't have to take this drug before it is prescribed for you.
Can one build an immunity to a painkiller after constant use over time?
Yes, sure. Especially with the opioid group, with the opioid analgesic group. It's not really an immunity per se, but you build what is called dependence and tolerance.
Okay.
So with the tolerance, it means that you now need more of the drug to get the same effects, that you normally used to have. And the dependence is like I said earlier. It's an opioid group,
right?
And opioid group is kind of narcotic,
highly narcotic.
Exactly. Yeah. So if you were to abuse them, then there's a risk of dependence in the opioid group. Then with its side effects too. Constipation, nausea, vomiting, etc., and then the dependence aspect of it.
Doc, I just want to ask you, are there any alternative uses for painkillers? I.e., can a painkiller do something else besides actually relieve pain?
Yes, especially with the NSAIDs group. So the name is non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs.
Okay.
So it has a lot of anti-inflammatory properties, and so it's good for people with these kind of arthritis, gouty arthritis, rheumatoid arthritis,
sports injuries.
Well, sports injuries where you have inflammation, etc. And also in cases of fever.
Okay.
So you also use it when somebody has a fever, especially like aspirin. You see, they block the action of prostaglandins. So, and in fever cases, you have high levels of prostaglandins E2. And so when you use these NSAIDs, especially, you are blocking these action of the production of prostaglandins. So quite apart from the analgesic effect, we have anti-inflammatory effects, we have anti-fever effect or antipyretic effect. Yes.
Okay, well done. Thank you. Very educative. And I want to thank our studio guest, Dr. Patrick Amu-Mensah, who is the medical director at the Kanishi Polyclinic. And if there's one piece of advice that you can leave with today is please ensure that you do see a medical officer in order to get diagnosed properly. And please give them your full history so that you can get the proper medication as well. Thank you so much, Doc, for joining us this morning.